The Middle of the Pack podcast.
I try to prioritize like sleep and nutrition and everything, but it is just fun at the end of the day. And I know sometimes in a race, there can be a lot of pressure. You might have like a time goal in mind, but I'm trying to take a step back sometimes and just say, you signed up to this race, you're doing this for fun, and there is supposed to be a fun aspect rather than the pressure. So I do think having a club as well, you'd enjoy the sessions because you have that social aspect, like you said, afterwards.
Welcome to episode 50 of the Middle of the Pack podcast, and that's this week's guest, Niamh Walsh from the social media site, Instagram site, Niamh's Training Diaries, and we had a good old chat this evening. But let's kick off tonight's episode where I've asked Niamh where she actually works, what the day job is. Welcome to episode 50 of the Middle of the Pack podcast with this week's guest, Niamh Walsh.
I work in Eli Lilly in the pharmaceutical company in Little Island. My background is in medical science, so I used to work in a lab in Cork University Hospital for a while. Then I went and did some travelling, and then I got back January of last year. And I said I'd take a step into the pharmaceutical industry and see how I get on. There's loads of staff in Kinsale and equally as many in Little Island. So I haven't been to the Kinsale site. I ran past it in one of the races, a Kinsale 10-mile race, but that's as close as I've gotten to the Lilly in Kinsale.
I was just going to ask you, did you take part in that race? Because it is heavily sponsored by Eli Lilly.
The first year I got back, I was a steward at the race. I hadn't really fully gotten into my running journey yet, and I was thinking 10 miles is 10 miles is quite a distance. So I was a steward the first year. I was in the high vest pointing people which direction to go. And then this year I took part, and it's such a great race. It's really, really good. I did it with my brother this year, so I dragged him along as well.
There's a few difficult hills in it, but other than that, it's a lovely, when the weather's good, it's lovely. And the weather was good this year.
It was nice. And there definitely is a few hills to be prepared for that, but it is an enjoyable race. And I think that's actually where I got my 10-mile PB. So we'll take it.
Absolutely. Any day you get a PB is a good day.
Have you ever heard of the Beat the Train race in Waterford?
No.
It's in support of Down Syndrome Ireland.
Okay.
So it takes off by the railway station, and a few of the kids are in the train, and the train kind of takes off shortly after the runners take off. And it's really nice. It's a really flat route, just along the Greenway almost in Waterford, kind of by Kilmeaden.
Yeah.
And out and back route, all really, really flat. That was the first 10-mile race I did, and I really enjoyed it. Just when the race is flat, it makes all the difference, especially in kilometers. But it was for a good cause as well. So it's always nice to do races when there's a good cause supporting it.
And tell me, how did you get into running then?
Well, when I lived in Australia, everyone was really into running there. As you can imagine, people are running at the beach in the mornings. I lived quite close to Maroubra Beach, so every day there was so many runners. And when I was living there, I'd actually never ran further than 5 kilometers before, and I was on a mission that I was going to run a 10K. So I was kind of saying, once I run a 10K, I might sign up to the Sydney Hoka Half Marathon. So we're talking kind of 2024. The Hoka Half Marathon was on in May. So I just remember my friends were actually at a pub quiz, and I was on the beach running like loops up the beach trying to get to 10 kilometers. And I was like, once I make the 10 kilometers, I'll have enough confidence to sign up to the half marathon. It's just always been something on my bucket list, I guess, to do. And, when I was in a new country, I kind of wanted some new challenges. So I said, why not take up running? The gym was kind of always something I was into, but I said, why not try something different? So I gave the 10K a go. I just about survived, and I signed up to do the Hoka Half in May. But to be honest, I knew absolutely nothing about running. Like, I had one pair of shoes. I'd never heard of a carbon plate. I never heard of intervals, a threshold session. I just used to go out and run on a long run every Sunday. I tried to increase the distance every week, and I used to run as fast as I could and for as long as I could every single time. So there was absolutely no structure to the training, but I made it, and I crossed the finish line, and I ran, I think it was just under the 2-hour mark. That's kind of a goal that a lot of people have for the half, to run a sub 2 hours. So the first ever, half marathon was May 2024, and I did cross the finish line under 2 hours. So I was absolutely delighted. But then I packed up the running for a while. I did some traveling, did other things, and I didn't really get back into running until I moved back home. So I got home, not the January just gone, the January before that. And because my family weren't at Sydney, so they never got to see me cross the finish line there and be involved, I wanted to run one at home and kind of get everyone else involved as well. So I signed up to run the Cork Half Marathon then when I got home. And around the same time, I actually met my boyfriend Dylan, who's really, really into running. He runs for Waterford AC, and he kind of took me under his wing as his little project. So I did my first ever interval session with him. I remember literally having to go over to the side and get sickly behind the trees down by the marina because my body had never run at such a fast pace. And yeah, he kind of took me, under his wing, I guess, and showed me a bit of structure when it comes to running. And, as well as just doing a long run, we also did some of the speedier sessions. And around the same time, actually, I got a job in Eli Lilly, and you've probably heard of the BHAA and all those races
Yeah.
that they have. So I did my first ever one of those. I think it was a striker 4 mile race. So my first ever race, like in Cork, I'd obviously done the Sydney half, but I hadn't really done any of the shorter distances. Uh, so this was a 6 mile race, I think, and I was honestly so nervous. I didn't really know what to expect. And we had a plan, so we were going to run together. Thankfully, my boyfriend was very good. He can run a lot faster than me, but he was saying, "Okay, we'll stick together for your first kind of race." But as soon as the gun went off and we were able to start, I absolutely took off. When you just don't have experience racing, and I just went for it. So I'd say for the first 500 meters, I was nearly sprinting because obviously you feel good at the start line as well, and my
Yeah.
legs are feeling fresh. And I'd say within a kilometer, he had caught up with me because I had sped up so much that I absolutely crashed, and I dropped the pace right down. So it was a humbling experience, but thankfully he agreed to run the rest of the race with me after I had taken off at the start line. But yeah, I guess in the summertime, last year there was lots of different races with the BHA. So I ran a few 5K races as well before doing the Cork half. I had a few attempts at doing a sub 20 before I was successful. I feel like that's a big goal with the 5K as well. But I did the John Buckley race, no luck. Absolutely hated it. Obviously when you're in the race, you don't like it, but when you get to the finish line, there's always a nice feeling. But 5Ks, I think, are the toughest race because you're really just kind of at your limits, aren't you?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I had a few 5K attempts, all of the BHA ones, and then I finally broke the sub 20 in. I think it was like the Gas Network Ireland race. So it was in and around Blackrock Castle, kind of by the marina area as well. So it was a nice confidence booster, I suppose, leading up to Cork, having a bit of speed under my belt. But yeah, the Cork half was kind of the first race then I did back here, and that was the one that made me fall in love with running
This is last year now, or this year.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually doing it the past 2 years. It's honestly my favorite race. It's just such a good day out. And, you kind of see, obviously, there's a lot of very competitive people in the race as well. But then you see people at the other end that might be doing it for their first time, or, you really have a broad range of people taking part. And the support is honestly just, sensational in Cork. I think you probably took part in that in the Cork. Was it the half marathon you did this year?
This year I did the half. Last year I did the full. So
Yeah, amazing.
when you were doing your half, I was doing my full. It was my first full last year.
My brother did his first full actually as well this year. And we kind of came close to one another towards the finish line this year, but he passed the finish line before me. But like you've probably experienced it yourself, the support at Cork, and there's no part of the race really where you're on your own, especially for the half. And there's always such a crowd and great support. So I think that's definitely my absolute favorite race. But the first time I did it, so last year, was probably what made me fall in love with running. I think I started to see a bit of progress. So obviously going from having just done one long run in my first, say, I suppose, training block for a half to actually having a bit of structure. And I think I was up to running maybe like 3 days a week, one easy run, one kind of interval session or a bit of speed work, and then a long run. And I noticed a huge difference. So I went from running like just about sub 2 to a 1:38, 30 something half in Cork last year, let's say. So, it's
Good.
nice when you see a bit, it really does kind of give you that confidence booster. And it's kind of, as you probably know yourself, it gets quite addictive then when you see one bit of progress. You're like, okay, what's my next time goal, or what's the next race I can sign up to? So yeah, kind of took off from there, my running journey, I suppose.
And is Dylan still your coach, or have you got?
No. It was great at the beginning, and he gave me so much advice and he taught me everything I know. But this year, I think it was March, I decided that I'd actually get a running coach. He was fed up with me at that stage, all my questions and and everything. So I'm actually running with Tygo Sullivan at the moment. He's coaching. He's been fab. It really is nice to have structure, so you're kind of going into the week knowing exactly what you're doing. any questions I have about like pacing or, nutrition or anything, I go to him. I went through a phase as well where I kind of wanted to, get a faster time for a half. So I just used ChatGPT to put together a plan for me. And I definitely would say that I was overtraining. I was doing too many hard sessions and I ended up getting injured. So it was kind of at that point that I thought, okay, I'll let this to the professionals, and obviously running coaches are, a great way to improve and to kind of help without getting injured, obviously, because you don't want to be overtraining. So I definitely think I was doing too much. And it started off with a bit of a niggle in my hip, and then it kind of went to my groin actually. And the physio said something to do with my glutes not activating properly when I run. So I do all my band work now and my activations before I run. And thankfully, touch wood, I've had nothing since. But it's definitely down to having a coach as well, because, he's very strict on having rest days, and we're kind of gradually increasing the miles. And a big thing as well is like keeping the easy days easy and the hard days hard, rather than every session kind of going all out. So that's one thing I've learned. So recovery and just kind of keeping the easy runs easy so that you can give it your all then when you do have those harder sessions.
Yeah, I find with the story is interesting because it's almost everybody's story that you start running first, you go out like a mad hare, and your first
Literally.
races you always get carried away with the first half a kilometer, and then
Oh my God.
trying to run easy can be hard then to pull back, and you almost feel like you don't want to be doing a zone 2 or you don't want to be doing, but it is the best advice anyone can listen if they are listening.
Yeah, and I think my advice for, the zone 2 running or the easy runs is bring someone along, because obviously, an easy run is supposed to be conversational pace. So you should be able to hold a conversation. So if you have someone with you, it kind of forces you to run at that pace so that you can keep up the conversation. So I try to do it with, there's a few girls that I'm into running with. So we might do some of our easy runs together. I drag my brother along sometimes, or Dylan. I've even got my mom involved with some 5Ks as well. She's very good. So yeah, I think just running with someone, especially for the easy runs, does kind of hold you accountable to a conversational pace so that you can keep the conversations going.
Yeah, and I even think that helps when you're trying to, maybe going for more of a steady run or a tempo run. Sometimes running with some running with somebody takes away the pain, you know what I mean? Where you're trying to,
There,
you're not going all out, but you're going faster. And if you've got somebody with you, it helps you keep the tempo up.
yeah, exactly. You know what? The Cork, I ran with the Pacers for the first time. So I've never last year I didn't actually run with the Pacers in Cork because Dylan was my unofficial pacer,
Yeah.
which is this year I went out with the pacing group, and it's kind of like you said, the shared effort and having people holding you accountable, because you literally just get to run along with them like you're in a group. You don't really have to think about pace. You're kind of, not that you don't have a choice, but you kind of just run with the pace that they're setting for you. So it definitely makes it a lot easier. And honestly, this year the Pacers were amazing. I went out with the 130 group, and from like handing back water, at a few points going up the hills towards the end, I dropped back a bit, and they were tapping their shoulders to be like, okay, come on, catch back up to me again. They were like, don't drop. So it really does make a difference having a group to run it. That's kind of the first time I've experienced running in a proper group, I guess. There is people that I run it at the weekends, and we might even, if our sessions are different for our long runs, we might do the warm up and cool down together. But even just having a set time that you're going to meet them kind of holds you accountable as well. And you're not, if the session sounds difficult, you might be dreading it or procrastinating. Whereas if you're meeting them at a certain time, it's nice to be like, okay, we're not even going to think about it. I just need to get to the destination and start running. And then before you know it, the hard part of the session is over and you're back cooling down, and then you're getting coffee and relaxing and chatting and everything. So there's a great social side, I think, to running as well. And
So have
it's
you joined a club? Are you thinking about joining a club?
I definitely am thinking about it, Padraig. Yeah. And basically this year I was doing a master's part time while I was working. So I used to have lectures on Tuesday evening and Thursday evening. So I didn't really have time to commit to a club, I guess, because I had to run, with quite strict times. It could be in the morning, or I might only have an hour to quickly run before I have college. So now that I'm finished the master's now, I have a lot more time in my hands. So I definitely would love to join a club. I'm not sure which one yet. I know there's every club just seems great, and I know a lot of people in various different clubs, so I don't know how I'm gonna make the decision. But before, when I first kind of started my running journey, there's kind of like I guess a stigma when you think of running clubs, you're like, oh my God, everyone is going to be so fast and you feel like you're going to be the one left behind. But I really don't think that's the case now that I've kind of heard more people talk about it and that that you see that there's really is people of multiple abilities. Like you do have people who are always getting, on a podium or they're always finishing close to the front, whereas you have people then as well, like us, the middle of the pack runners that you could find, in the middle of the group in a race. So I definitely will look into it a bit more and join as soon as I get back from my holiday night to Greece. I think that would be my next mission to get signed up with the club. I think the clubs are great because I know a lot of the clubs you probably have certain sessions that you do where there might be like a coach within the club. So I know that they're probably, if I did go down on a Tuesday, say to the track or wherever you are on a Tuesday, that there's probably going to be like different sessions probably tailored to different people, or maybe the session might be the same, but the paces might be different. So I think as well, yeah, it'll probably just be a bit of fun. I think with running, I guess, like obviously to an extent, I take it seriously and I follow my coach's plan for the weekend. I try to prioritize like sleep and nutrition and everything, but it is just fun at the end of the day. And I know sometimes in a race, there can be a lot of pressure. You might have like a time goal in mind, but I'm trying to take a step back sometimes and just say, you signed up to this race, you're doing this for fun. And there is supposed to be a fun aspect rather than the pressure. So I do think having a club as well, you'd enjoy the sessions because you have that social aspect, like you said afterwards.
So when you talk about
Yeah.
nutrition, how did you fuel yourself for the half marathon?
Yeah. So this year I discovered Alter Nutrition, the Speed Dust. And
Hmm.
I honestly love that product. To be honest, my stomach isn't too sensitive to gels, and I would do a combination of both, but it honestly is just really refreshing and it tastes great. So for a lot of my long runs, like leading up to the half, I have a 150 ml little flask. So what I'd actually do is I'd fill up, so that it's 3 scoops that you put into 500 mils of water. So I'd
Hmm.
have like a proper flask at home, put my 3 scoops in, mix it all up, and then I'd pour it into my small 150 ml flask and put that in my running pouch. But then I'd also be sipping on the speed dust before my session. And then I have another, maybe 150 mils for after the session. So you're kind of getting your carbs in before. I get it during the session, and then you'd have it afterwards as well to kind of help with the recovery. So if my run is probably maybe over like 12K, so over the hour mark, maybe I would have, so speed just would be my first thing. For example, now with the weekend, I ran 16K. So I had the 150 mils of speed dust, and then I also had one of the SIS gels. They're kind of the electrolyte ones. So I kind of, when I'm in a race, I find it hard to take on water sometimes. So having the speed dust is great. And then also having those gels that you don't really need to take with water because they're like more electrolyte based.
Yeah.
And it's a bit nicer as well. The consistency is a bit nicer in your mouth rather than the kind of the gloopy gels, I guess. So yeah, I kind of tried to practice it on my long runs, but for the half this year, I took on 2 gels and 150 mils of speed dust. Um,
With 3 scoops, or was that?
so this was just a 1 scoop, let's say, in the 150
Yeah,
mils.
yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
I think 23 grams of carbs maybe.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice as well when it's a hot day or whatever, you can kind of sip on something. I just have it with me at all times, so it's great. But yeah, that's how I feel Cork this year. And I felt like I was well fueled throughout the race. Now, for the Cork half this year, I went out, like I was saying, with the 130 pacers, and things were feeling great until they weren't. So with about 2K to go, I felt terrible. I don't know whether it was I was just exhausted or my legs, or I actually felt like I could barely breathe. I really struggled towards the end. So with the last 2K, I did drop back from the pacers. I even passed, I know Karen, she's been on this podcast before. She was
Yeah.
towards the line and she said she saw me and she's never seen me so pale. And she said my lips were literally like nearly blue. So I really pushed myself to the limits towards the end. So maybe if I had something extra, like a couple of jellies, it might have helped towards the end. I
Yeah.
actually even remember hearing, I wasn't wearing headphones or anything for this race. I was kind of just soaking in the atmosphere. But I remember coming down Washington Street and I could even hear one of the stewards call out my race number and just say, "Oh, keep an eye on this number. Like it looks like low blood sugar." So I think they were quite worried about me coming towards the finish line, but I was determined to get there. And I didn't get the sub 130. So that was kind of the goal, I guess, going out with the 130 pacers. But I ran a 130:34, which I was still really, really happy with. And, compared to the year before, I had ran, I think it was a 138:30 something. So it was an 8-minute PB, and it's nice to compare the exact race as well because know some races are flatter or hillier than others. So I was really proud of the all the progress I had made in the year, and despite not breaking the 90-minute barrier, I did still get, you know, for me, I thought it was a great time, and I was really happy with that. So that was a fueling for Cork. But yeah, considering how I finished, I didn't finish strong.
But
Let's
but
just
the
put it that.
but the thing is, just to give you a little bit of consolation, the this year I was probably the same. I was hoping for a time. I was about 4 minutes off the time I wanted to get, and it was a very heavy day this year, as in muggy. It wasn't hot, but it was kind of muggy.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, I rang my coach immediately after the race, and he was just going, it was a tough condition. So, I mean, I ran the full the year before, and I didn't feel half as heavy as I did this year.
Okay. It really
Yeah,
depends on the discipline, and I think as well you have to take, obviously you have a time goal, but on the day there's a lot of things you have to take into account. Like you said, even the heat can definitely have an impact on, the pace that you have or that you've been doing might feel a bit harder than what it would have felt in training. So all these kind of things come into play, I guess, as well. But once we both cross the finish line, that's the main thing. And once you enjoy the race as well, we have to look on the bright side. I know there is often a time pressure, let's say, but it's nice just to celebrate the wins. And sometimes you kind of think, oh God, like we could have been gutted that we didn't get our time goals, but like we were so capable of running a half marathon, which a lot of people are not in a position to do. So it's nice to be grateful that our bodies were able to carry us through and that we were able to make it to the finish line. And
to get to the
yeah,
finish line is good. Do you have a shoe of choice? Do you have a favorite or
I
favorites?
yeah, well, my first ever carbon shoe that I got was the Vaporfly, and I honestly thought I was Usain Bolt when I put them on. I'd never experienced it before. I'd went from just wearing like, I think I had the Hoka Clifton Nines when I first started, and obviously they're not carbon plated, and I used those for my first half back in Sydney. So when I put the Vaporflies on for the Cork half last year, I was like, oh my God, these are amazing. But this year, in terms of like a race shoe, I went for the Adidas Pro 4. I find them great as well, and I'm a big fan of those. In terms of like everyday shoes, the Super Blast 3s or even the Super Blast 2s are the ones I go to for all of my easy runs.
Asics.
I find them cushion Asics, yeah, the Super Blasts.
Mhm.
Nice and cushy and comfortable. And I do love the non-carbon version of the Pro 4s as well, the Evo SLs from Adidas.
Yep,
And I find that those whenever I have maybe a sort of like speedier run. So this morning I was running, it was kind of a bit of threshold and speed work, and I'd often find I'd go for my Evo SLs. I feel like they do have a bit of speed in them, even being non-carbon plated.
for sure.
So yeah, have you worn them as well yourself?
Well, yeah, I'm almost sponsored by Adidas. I'm not like, but I
Or,
love the Evo SLs. I love the Pro 4s. I've also got the
yeah,
Hyper Boost Edge for long runs, and
if my family see one more pair of shoes coming through the door, I will be murdered. So I've been sticking with those ones for now. But I think, yeah, I definitely find the Adidas ones great, and I did love the Pro 4s for the half this year. I find them quite speedy. And any race that I do now, I'd often go for those as well. I think I've had to retire the Vaporflies. They've reached their maximum number of kilometers, I'd say, at this stage. So I said it was time for an upgrade for the races, in the summer. So they're kind of my three main ones. I do have a pair of Max 6 as well from Hoka that I do really like as well. I guess Hoka are kind of the brand that I started off with, so I kind of was like, I'll try a different type from them. So the Max 6 are good too, but yeah, the Evos they have my heart. They're my favorite for easy or kind of speedier shoes.
yeah, I thought I had a shoe addiction until I have Ian O'Brien. He does our shoe review kind of shows, and he has over 45 shoes on the go. So
Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah. So
You
we're
have
we're fine if we've got 5 or 6 or 7.
we're doing well compared to him.
And tell me about your Instagram page, your
Oh
social
yeah.
media site.
This is honestly all just very new to me, and even being on this podcast is something I've never done before. But basically, my sister was just like, "Niamh, I think you need to set up a little, training page," because I was just posting all my runs and all the races I was doing on my normal Instagram account. So she was like, "You should absolutely make a new page." So I'll give a shout out to my sister for giving me that push. And I guess it's just for me to kind of keep track of everything myself. So I kind of like posting. everything that I've done, like a weekly roundup of all the runs and the gym sessions that I've done that week, and to keep track of like the mileage and stuff too. And I guess, I'm not someone who, gets on podiums or wins every race, but I have learned a lot in over the past year or so running. So it's nice as well to share and to share the journey. And if anyone, obviously even after this, if anyone has any questions about running, I'm not an expert by any means, but like people can definitely feel free to reach out to that Instagram page with any like questions, or a few people asked me whenever I used to post like new shoes that I bought, they'd ask me to give them a little review or how do you find those. So it's nice to help other people as well, especially people getting started out, I guess, to know where to start. Obviously it's great. I have a coach now that kind of guides all the running sessions, and then I kind of just look after the gym side of things on my own.
But like as you say, not getting on podiums is almost encouraging for a lot of people because they can
Yeah.
feel and do you know what I mean? Like if you were doing a page where you were just winning all the races, people are just going to go, I'm never going to be like that. Whereas if you're going out and you're doing decent runs and yeah, you're encouraging
Yeah.
people.
It just comes down to being consistent with running. You don't really have to have any skills. Like I've never been, in school, I was never running since a young age. I was never into cross country or like city sports. Like I literally just took this up when I was maybe 25, 26, as of recent years. So you can make, progress if you are consistent with it. And I guess there's no like secret recipe to getting faster. It's literally just kind of running consistently every week. And there's no magic sessions as such. It's just kind of a lot of easy runs and then maybe a couple of those speed sessions as well. And it was only recently that I even started doing threshold sessions when I got a coach. I hadn't really heard about that either. So you do learn a lot as you go along. But for anyone starting out, I would just say, like, just run. Honestly, like, you don't kill yourself every time you run, try to hold back a bit and get into like an easy pace, but just kind of running week in, week out. And you'll definitely notice a difference in your running over time. It's nice to see the progress as well.
And what's your social media handle? What the page for those that want to follow you and ask you questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Podge, for giving me the plug. It's just Niamh's training diaries.
So no spaces, just all together.
No, yeah, as well as running, I try to incorporate maybe like 1 to 2 gym sessions a week as well, just to keep the body going and to touch wood prevent any injuries. So I try to do like a lower body day in the week and then an upper day as well, where I try to incorporate core work. So I do kind of sometimes post like the gym sessions that I do, but the same as running with the gym, you kind of have to do the same sessions almost every week to see progress. And it's just the basics in terms of the gym. Like I try to do squatting, so like a compound movement, some RDLs, and then I try to focus on some single leg work. So Bulgarian split squats, single leg hip thrusts, and then I try to do some calf raises as well, just to keep the calves nice and strong. So nothing major, like just to keep tipping away every week and hopefully keep the body strong that we don't get any injuries. I know that's a runner's nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because you're doing all the right things. You're doing the easy runs easy, the hard runs hard, the long runs long. You're doing strength and conditioning with all the right exercises. So yeah, that's the
Thank
right way to do things.
I think as well, rest days are a big thing. If I was to give anyone advice, I really didn't take enough rest days when I first started off, and I really felt it in my body. Whereas now, you can kind of, once you do take rest every week, you definitely notice a difference as well to let the body adapt and recover from those harder training sessions. Just wanted to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come on today. And like I said again, if anyone does have any questions, I'm absolutely not an expert, but I'm happy to share my experience and my journey with running and everything else to date. So thank you so much for having me on as your guest.
And thank you for coming on. It's just a pleasure to talk and best of luck with
Thanks.
everything in the future. And that was Niamh Walsh, this week's guest, which is, I suppose, a significant episode. It is the 50th episode of the Middle of Pack podcast. And I do hope you enjoyed listening. And as Niamh said, if you have any questions for her, you can contact her at the Instagram site, Niamh's Training Diaries. Look that up. If you've got any questions for me, email motpire@gmail.com. But I do hope you enjoyed this episode 50 of the Middle of the Pack podcast. But for this week, thanks for listening and keep on running.